Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to take a little different approach. My name is Phil Hickman. I've been calling on Copeland branches for 22 plus years now. And in the last few months, I have had several different conversations with a variety of different end users and food service workers and food processors. And all of them kind of had the same theme of what they were needing as far as to make them do their, or help them to do their job better. So when I was talking with these guys, and this is a conversation with the counter. So when I talk to these guys, the food processors and the contractors that are working in the world, they've got concerns. What do they need to do their job better? They need to help prevent losses of food. So when I'm talking to this, one of the end users I was talking to, he says he won't even know he's got a problem until it's too late. So if he had a way of learning about issues going on in his location, it'd be great. He also, the same end user, said that he has issues with the HACCP requirements that are coming upon him, and he's responsible for these different food workers in his facilities. And right now, every hour, they will walk around with a piece of paper and write down the temperatures in his coolers and his freezers, and he doesn't really feel like he's getting a good representation of what's really going on in his location. So if he had a way that he could get his temperatures in his spaces automatically instead of manually, it would take a load off of him. He's really concerned about that. They also say, if we had a more efficient way to respond to issues, one of the contractors I was talking with that did C-stores, he says it's not unusual for him to have his guys doing PMs because he doesn't have enough calls to keep them all busy. And suddenly at 4 or 5:30 in the afternoon, he'll get a call from one of his convenience stores that they're responsible for and go, oh, by the way, my freezer has been warm all day. Can you send somebody out? So, instead of it being efficient in a way that he could see his systems out there, he could already be sending a guy out there doing a productive thing, taking care of this freezer that has an issue, rather than, giving them, it's not busy work, but going out there and doing their preventive maintenance because they don't have any scheduled service calls. He said the same thing as far as when he would go out to these jobs, it would be really nice if he did have a way to look at maybe the suction pressure on each one of his condensing units, or maybe even if the doors are open. So if he could see if a door switch was open on one of his coolers and freezers, then maybe that's what's causing the problem. And he could just make a phone call to the store and say, hey, check cooler A1. I'm showing our doors open. And so he's seeing the temperature goes up. He looks at the door switch. It's open. So, it could save him a lot of effort and really do his job more efficiently. And if they could just see the system, or if they need to see the system 100% of the time, it would take a lot of load if they could schedule things out rather than doing the service as needed. So, when I hear the contractors and end users talking about what's going on and what they need, so, it sounds like maybe they're needing, something they could use to real-time monitor. So if they could have the ability to go on a website or to look at their phones or look at their tablets and find out what the temperatures are in some of the critical locations perhaps all the time. Or if they have an issue with a location, it would be nice to have timely notifications. So, you've got a big event coming up in this event center, and maybe if you knew that you had a reach in that maybe was having temperature issues, you could take care of that problem before the guys got there to load all the beer into it. So the automatic HACCP data collection, that'll give them an opportunity to make the information correct. And if they could actually have the ability to, diagnose and get analytics from their equipment as needed. So it looked like this is what they were all talking to me about. So I started thinking, what I'm going to talk about is things that when you're talking to your contractors and they're bringing up issues, kind of give them, ideas of questions to ask. Where do you want to go with this? What do you need? Talk to the contractor, ask them, what kind of issues or equipment is on the job? How many coolers, how many freezers, how many reach-ins? Do you see a lot of problems with this location? If there's things that we need to be moving towards, do you have the issues that could easily be resolved if you had timely data? And do you have a lot of product loss? Is it very expensive? Is it costing your business a lot of money? Are you responsible for that product loss? And do your guys have to spend a lot of time solving these issues when perhaps it's a simple solution that if you have timely data, you could solve this? So when I'm talking with the end users and the contractors and the food processing world, I kind of start thinking, well, if I had more data or I had the ability to get data from them, or maybe if I go to a site, I know y'all seen this form before, but I actually use it when I go out on these jobs. I will send it to contractors to say, hey, let me know what your situation here is. Is it a convenience store? You got a warehouse? Is it a restaurant? What kind of application?
Phil,
yes.
Phil, you're going to go ahead and you need to share that form. I know that you probably switched over to a different application.
Oh,
so
snap it then.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. Y'all seen this form before, and it'll be, I'll send it to Julie's probably got it, but if not, we'll get it out to you somehow. You can always get with your account reps, and they'll be happy to help you with it. But this has got a lot of very good information and helps the contractor to identify maybe what his need is. So, I'm looking at the middle one here, monitoring only. I have a food processor that says, I've got this facility where we're taking, meat in and we're sending sausage out the back door. We've got 5 different coolers, and we don't know what the temperature is on any of these coolers. And they were talking to one of their regional food chains, supermarkets, and the supermarket asked them, well, what's the temperature you're keeping this stuff at? And he knew what he thought he was keeping it at, and he had the gauge dials on his coolers, but he didn't have anything he could print off and show this regional supermarket that what his temperatures were. So he's very interested in this application because he just wants to be able to go up there and print off his data showing this temperature of my processing, this delivery that you're going to get. This is the temperature it was at throughout the whole cycle. So it's kind of a good information as far as getting information to the contractor from the end user and making sure that the direction we go is something that they're interested in. There it goes. We have a Dixell product catalog, and I won't hit the buttons because it's not going to go there. But on pages 10 and 11, we're kind of where I was going to go with this. So when I'm talking with my counterman and we've talked about the issues, I will often get them this product catalog, either the PDF, or if I happen to have some, I'll share it. But usually it's a PDF file that I'll send. But it'll take them straight to the products that I want to look at as far as just monitoring these systems and give them a little bit more information. So if you looked at, page 10 of this, it would be the XWeb information. And what would we be solving? Well, we'd give them real-time monitoring, we'd give them timely notifications, and it would give them that automatic HACC data collection. So we're primarily working with 2 different models here in the United States, where you're using the XWeb 300 and the XWeb 500. And we're going to have an XWeb training, I think, during the week, aren't we, Julie? Or next week?
Yes, we are. I was actually just looking at the schedule for when that was going to happen, but I don't quite have it down yet. I'll let you know. Okay.
So I won't go too much into this, but the XWeb, 2 different models that we're working with here there's a kind of a base model, which would be the XWeb 300 and the XWeb 500. which would be a model that has a few more features that are necessary, especially if you want to do scheduling and things like that. But the reason for this this picture, I'm going to go to the next one because it gets really better, is you can kind of see how the product line is laid out. And if you look at the very bottom of that screen, you can see the XJP60D. And the XJP60D is what we would use in an application where they're just wanting to monitor products. Temperature, they could be monitoring pressure, or they could be monitoring humidity in the space. The information now goes back to the XWeb500D with it's an RS485, and I'll show you the wiring in a bit. But if you kind of look around the screen, you can see it's a familiar product. You know, far left, we've got the core sense would give information to the XWeb if you wanted. The X line has the Dixel controller that will communicate back to the XWeb. So you can see the different applications and products that we've discussed in the last few weeks or few months, and look at the applications, restaurants, and C-stores. The actual product that I use for the monitoring is this XJP60. So the XJP60, you know, gives them the answer to their problem. So the real-time monitoring their set points. It gives them the timely notifications. So the XJP60 is where you're going to be entering your set points. You're going to enter in your high set points and your delays as far as when you're going to issue an alarm. So this would take care of the data and be sending it back to the XWeb where it'll be stored and the notifications actually go back. I should go back to one more slide here. I'm going to go back to this again because what's important about this setup is the ability to get all this information, and you're just using one IP address. So all the data is going to come back to the XWeb, and the XWeb is where the IP address is going to be, so that you can get the remote communication, whether it be emails or text or however you want the data sent to you whenever there's problems. So the XWeb is the IP address, and I know one of the end users I've been working with is excited about having a single IP address instead of multiple IP addresses that are required for when he's taking care of his walk-ins with this XW60. So he's using, you know, another flavor of a walk-in cooler defrost control, and each one of them requires an IP address, which is very bulky for him and hard to manage.
Phil, not to interrupt, but I did just get confirmation from Dustin Tillery that we will do the XWeb training at 11:30 on Thursday of this week.
Okay, wonderful. Perfect timing. Real quick overview of the product. You know, we're using the 110-volt product here in the States, and when you order this, that's what you'll get. And what you're going to be able to do is you're going to get 6 analog inputs or 6 4 to 20 milliamp inputs, or they could be a 3 and a 3. You're going to get digital inputs, and so you can fit the application as needed. So I mentioned the C-store operator that was wanting to be able to get real-time monitoring of temperatures and suction set points. So with this one control, we could monitor his different coolers, and then if there's a temperature issue on one of the coolers, he would be able to go look at the suction set points, the contractor would, and see what's going on there. Some accessories that are involved with this to get it initially set up. On the bottom right-hand side, you see the KB1 programming keyboard display, and it takes that wire, the CAB KB1, to connect to it. So if you were not using a software like WizMate to program this, you would be required to use these to one, give it its location, and two, give it the data input identifications and the temperature set points and pressure set points you're going to monitor. Last slide is I wanted to show you how, if you're using multiple Dixel products on a single XWeb, so the top right is your XWeb, and then you can see how we have the different XJP60s daisy chained, and this is a true daisy chain. So positive's got to go to positive, negative's got to go to negative, and you can see how they're daisy chained back to the XWeb. I guess I will just open it. Julie, any questions come through? Any thoughts?
I haven't seen any questions come through. Anybody out in the audience with any questions? Any Emerson people that I can unmute to further comment on this? I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to weigh in.
Hey, Julie.
Oh, everybody's, yes.
I have a question. Is that something we can buy as an Emerson distributor?
So that question's coming from Terry Gossman. Yep. Go ahead, Phil.
Oh, yeah, Terry, yeah, it's all set up and ready to go. So you'll be able to get with Larry, and he'll be able to work out the details as far as how to get this. But, yes, we're in the market now. You'll be getting it through the ERS group today.
Right. Okay. So currently this is, yeah, it's not fulfilled through Mount Comfort. You would purchase this product through Retail Solutions, but just like we've done with the Universal Controller, and we're looking at doing with some other Retail Solutions products, you know, if the volume starts picking up and it makes sense for us to source and bring in some of these products that are currently fulfilled out of Kennesaw, if it makes sense and the volume is there for us to stock them and support them through Mount Comfort where there's a little bit better lead time, we can certainly do that. But we almost need to justify that there's some volume there in order to convince the sticklers at Mount Comfort to increase inventory. We did have a couple more questions come in. Let's see. Can the XP60 parameters be changed from the XWeb or only locally via the keyboard or WizMate?
You can go via the XWeb to change the parameters, yes. I will also include the instruction sheets with this if you need it, Julie.
Perfect. Yeah, any supplementary documents. Mark Hayes already sent me the updated site survey in both Excel and PDF form, so I'll send that out. A couple of other questions. Does the Universal Controller work with this so that I can retrofit older cases that I have to tie into communication?
If you remember Mike's presentation on the Universal Controller the other day, he talked about having to have a cable, and which is available. And the cable, to answer your question, yes, it can. You'll just daisy chain it in to the system. So I showed you the wiring diagram showing you the daisy chain. So imagine that XR60 sitting in that daisy chain. You would just do the positive to positive, negative to negative, and you'd use a special cable, which again, it's on our, and I'm sorry, I can't recall the name at the top of my head, but yes, you can.
Okay. One other question, as far as the control operations of the XWeb600 series, does it have the capability of doing lead lag control of multiple condensing units, say 4 X-line low temp condensing units? And this may be a question that's better suited to be answered on Thursday by Dustin, but
yeah, I think so. I think we'll use one of our XC controllers for controlling lead lag and have it daisy chain through the XWeb. The XWeb is just collecting data and giving you communication. So don't think of it as an individual condensing unit controller.
Dustin, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, not to put you on the spot, but that question that came through, I'll read it again. As far as the control operations of the XWeb600 series, does it have the capability of doing lead lag control of multiple condensing units?
The XWeb would not, no. Just as Phil said, it would be used strictly for the reporting and collecting of the data itself.
Well,
the actual control would, is that correct?
Actually, so this is Mike, Julie. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, so on the so I'm hearing XJP60D, but there's the XJP, the 500 is the one that has scheduling, and one of the things that you can schedule is the energy saving parameter. And so what you can do is you can set the energy, you can set up different set points using the energy savings parameter, and basically tell one unit that it's in energy savings on, so one day, and tell the other units on the energy savings the other day, and you can toggle set points back and forth. You could effectively do a lead lag like that.
That's good to know. And then one other question, what about integration to BACnet controllers for monitoring to an existing Siemens system, for example? Is that possible with the 600 series?
That's a Dustin question there.
And I will have to do a little more research onto that question to get a true answer for that.
Okay, perfect. I will. I'll make sure to save some of these chats. That was coming from Chris. Actually, let me just go ahead and unmute Chris if you're out there. You might be able to explain what you're looking for. Okay, Chris, you're unmuted. If you want to give a little bit more information on what you're looking for, and then Dustin can research the answer for his presentation on Thursday. I don't know if you're there or not. Maybe not. Okay. At any rate, I will save these questions that have come through, and I'll send them to you, Dustin, so you can prepare. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for the feedback, and thank you to Phil. This was a great presentation, really kind of got everybody thinking. What I would say is if you know, as we're going through a lot of these presentations, if you see them as having a potential for sales within your market, within your company, please reach out to your sales manager. And the more momentum that we can get behind some of these products, the more justification we have to bring them into Mount Comfort and really scale the sales opportunities. So that's really what these, I know that the 11:30 calls that we do are really more about training. The 12:30 call is somewhat training, but it's also, sales opportunities and trying to present you with opportunities to think about different ways to grow your business. So please reach out to your sales managers on this topic or any others that you'd like to hear about, and we will do our best to deliver them to you. So once again, thanks everybody. Tomorrow, the 11:30 call is going to be, we had pretty significant interest from people on hearing about kind of the Copeland Mobile, extended version of the explanation that Scott Avini has given. So we will do a longer session on Copeland Mobile. And as far as the 12:30 session, I believe it may be MJ presenting on, and I can't recall the topic at this point, but we do have topics lined up for the rest of the week, and I'll get meeting notices out for everybody on those here shortly. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Phil. Great job. Have a great day.
Thanks.